Ladies and gentlemen, from the legendary 100 Club, Jeff Horton. So what was it like? I've never been to one of those select committee things. I saw some footage of you. You looked like you were you were doing very well. But I mean, it must be odd. You sit down in front of 8 politicians, and you've got 5 minutes to tell them what the score is.
I was in my element, to be honest with you. I think if a chance to actually go to speak to the people who make a difference happens, you've got to grasp it with both hands and speak as honestly and as passionately as I feel, as all this panel here do, about grassroots live music venues and the problems, the unique problems that we all face. And to be honest with you, there was a lot of positivity that came back. Joe Stevens, the MP for Cardiff Central, was particularly engaging, seemed to understand the issues we're up against. But all you can do, really, as I say, is seize the opportunity, and it's up to them. But at least we've managed to have our say, and we've managed to speak face to face to people about the issues that we face, and also, which I pointed out, the wider consequence for everybody. Because I think if live music venues continue to fall off a cliff, there's going to be huge implications, as I said, to everybody. You know, tourism's going to start getting affected. I think the festivals are going to start getting affected. All of us run vehicles which continually bring through amazing talent that end up headlining festivals. I did some research when I co-wrote the report for the Music Venue Trust 3 years ago, and the 100 Club had 70% of the festival headliners at British festivals have played the 100 Club at some point, and I'm sure that's the same for all our venues as well.
So it's exactly what you're saying, really, or what we're joining up the argument as. The festivals hoover up a load of the audience and the money during the summer.
Yep.
For people to go and see the bands that you've spent all the time.
Well, I mean, a case in point is I said to you earlier on, we had Muse play the club back in, I think it was 96, 97, and the promoter lost, I think, 400 quid each night.
Yeah. So.
And they're now doing easily 8, 9 nights at the O2 at 19,000 people a night. I mean. Yeah.
And did you get the impression that the politicians sort of understood what you were talking about and that they were enthusiastic to the cause, or were they there because it kind of looked credible?
Well, I don't think they really understand live grassroots music venues. No, I don't think they're the sort of places that they go to.
Do you think they understood the argument that financially, though, it's an important starting point for the British music industry, which generates an awful lot of money in tax?
Exactly. And that was the point I tried to do, is try to paint the bigger picture. We all did, all the guys are on the panel, and just to explain that this isn't just about grassroots music venues. I mean, you know, I'm sure there aren't many of you that care too much if, say, the 100 Club shuts, but have you thought about the bigger consequence? Have you thought of the effects, as I said, of the nighttime industry, of tourism, the festival circuit? You know, there's already lots of bands that I know that are coming out over, say, from America. There's been loads of examples this year at the club, but they've done one show at the club and then continued the rest of the tour around Europe because they're better paid and they're better looked after, because in Europe there's support from local authority for music, and that just isn't the case over here.
And would you worry that people just get out of the habit of going to see bands? I mean, that's the other thing, and there's subsidies around Europe, but what I get from bands is, we turned up in this place, 150 people came out on a Tuesday night. Yeah. You know, only 50 of them have ever heard of us, but there's a culture of going out.
Seriously, I mean, the other thing that gets me is, you know, people talk about the lost generation of kids coming through that aren't interested in live music. That's not what I see at all. You know, people say that kids are just interested in, you know, social media and whatever and doing everything through a screen. But, quite recently we've done loads and loads of nights where we specifically aim for sort of people under 25 and stuff, because everyone over 40, 50 knows the 100 Club, but actually there has been a generation of people who don't know much about it. So we've done a couple of shows recently with grime artists and new emerging artists, and the place has been absolutely packed. So, I think, there's definitely audiences out there. Unfortunately, the places for them to go to see this are disappearing over a cliff.
Yeah. I mean, you've obviously seen over the past 10 years venues all around the West End of London closing or being bulldozed to the ground. How have you managed to stay in? What are the challenges managing to stay alive where you are?
Well, there's two things. The first is that we have a huge amount of history and heritage. We are the oldest running live music venue anywhere on the globe. And so there's two things. A lot of people want to come because of that. But also, we've very fortunately managed to forge two really good relationships with two big companies, originally Converse and now Fred Perry. And the guy that was the GM of Converse, Richard Copcutt, he actually used to be a drummer in a punk band called the Souls of Destruction, who used to support UK subs and English Dogs and stuff like that.
Is that what you've got over him then? Is that why he had to sign the deal?
We actually banned him from the club once as well, but that's another story. But I've never had that conversation of how he went from being the drummer in a punk band at the 100 Club in like 1981 to the GM of Converse. But fortunately for me, he did, because we had a big fallout with the landlords back in 2010, and I basically went to the press because I've been trying to ask them to help us out and wasn't getting anywhere. So I just knew at the end of 2010 that if we carried on trading, we'd be trading while insolvent, so they could come after me personally. So I made my mind up we were going to finish. And this story went out in the Evening Standard, and in the back of a cab reading this was Richard, and he came to see me and he just said, "Look, I love this place. This means everything to me, and I'm now in a position where I can help you. What do you want from us?" So we spoke about a certain amount of figure in sponsorship and stuff, and he signed it off straight away. So that's the only reason, really, why we're still here. And then, obviously, Converse decided at the end of 2016 they'd had enough, which is fair enough. We wouldn't be here without them. But I'd had a previous relationship with Fred Perry, and John Flynn, their chairman, said to me, "Look, Jeff, if this ever finishes between you and Converse, or they say it's coming to an end, please call me, because, we really regret the fact that we weren't able to pick up the mantle at the time." So I spoke to John, and I think we had 2 meetings, and in 3 weeks, they picked up where Converse left off. And, they've just been absolutely brilliant. For us, with the rents we have, we're in some of the most expensive real estate anywhere in the world. Business rates have just gone up 47%. I'm now paying £1,500 a week in business rates.
Whoa. Stop. How much?
1,500 a week, yeah. They went up from, I think we were paying 48,000. Then when the re-evaluation came in 2016, they went up to 72. They're now 75. So if you work it out, it's about 1,500 a week in business rates alone. So without a sponsor like Fred Perry, we wouldn't be here. It's as simple as that.
So this is what we have to change. We have to get to someone to make the 100 Club economically more viable.
Yeah.
That's what has to change. Otherwise, we're always going to be at the behest of, bless them, Fred Perry and Converse, but it shouldn't always be like that, should it?
No, it shouldn't. And, so I've done things like I've applied for every kind of relief there is. I had to go to this board meeting last year to apply for hardship relief with Westminster Council. And I walked into this venue near Trafalgar Square, and there's me one side of a table and 7 people on the other. Now, I've never been to a parole board meeting before in my life, but I'd imagine there's similarities to it. And I had to sit there and sort of open all my sort of accounts to all these 7 strangers while they asked me all these questions about why wasn't I paying my business rates. And it's like, well, you've just put it up 47%. Actually, why am I having to come here and apply for hardship relief? My family have been paying business rates for 60 odd years. Why am I having to come here and apply for hardship relief? It's humiliating, really. Because I'm not sure if many people know, but the 100 Club's have actually been in my family since 1958. So we've been paying business rates since then. And it's like, I've now got to apply for hardship relief because you've put them up 47%. It's mad.
I've got one last question because I'm being told time's up. My one last question is, with all this, I mean, we were talking even earlier on about having to go and talk about licences. The bane of everyone's life is getting the licence, changing the licence, the capacity and the fire regs, health, all these things. With that and the worries about money, do you still enjoy it? Can you still enjoy it even with all the headaches?
Do you know what, Steve? Seriously, I love it more than ever. I'm absolutely passionate about what I do, and I think it's a God-given right that places like all of ours should still remain for the people who haven't experienced it yet, the future generations to come. And one of the things that I deliberately do is, I sound like my dad now, but I kind of try and give people the same gig and experience I had. So there's no barriers. You won't see lines of like high-vis security in front of the stage. You know, I want it to be like when I went and saw the Specials in 1980 or when I saw the Clash in 1977. And I think people respond to that. You know, we had a show with Paul McCartney, funnily enough, who came to highlight the importance of the club when I thought we were going to shut. And I had a big conversation with Barry, his manager, who said, look, you know, the production's coming in at 11 o'clock, then we're going to put the barrier in. I went, what barrier? And he went, well, we're going to put a barrier in because it's Paul McCartney. And I went, but it's the 100 Club. You know, he's got to do it the same as the 100 Club, like everyone else. And he went, Jeff, it's the 18th of December. It's very close to the anniversary that John Lennon was assassinated. And when this happens, we get every lunatic in the world email us or ring us up saying they're going to do this to Paul, they're going to do that to Paul. So Paul McCartney playing at your venue is a really good thing. Paul McCartney dying in your venue is a really bad thing. Let's put the barrier in.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Horton.